It is May 6th, 2021. Welcome to the misinformation station that you affectionately know as the Armenian Council for Truth and Journalism. Yet again, we're banned. Always with the bans. The very same people who tell us they love us, they're looking out for us, and they just want us all to be healthy and happy and pretty and witty and gay. They won't let us be gay. All we want to do is be gay. But they won't let us. We try to skirt around the issues. We try to joke about them. We try to be sarcastic. But you can't do that. They've gotten too smart. We're on the radar. And once you're on the radar, they then do whatever they can to control the things you say. Big Brother is always watching now, and we're the ones that let it happen. All for the convenience of having targeted advertising and being able to order piles and piles of useless shit from Amazon. We've allowed them to see everything. They have access to our cameras when we're masturbating. This is the world we've created. They watch everything. They know everything. And I don't give a shit. Because when it comes to spreading truth or news articles that I don't agree with necessarily, I'm going to keep doing it. Because there's no point in bowing to the tyranny that we're now seeing placed in front of us. They are coming for everyone. They're coming for you. They're coming for me. And last night, they came for the council, so I guess we might as well convene.
Do you think Big Brother likes us? I mean, do you think they'll ever be wrong?
No.
Big Brother is like a spouse, particularly the wife. She'll never admit that she's wrong.
It really is kind of like that.
It's also a very abusive relationship.
Incredibly abusive.
But they hit us with strikes because they love us.
Oh, yes.
Being a citizen is very abusive, as Colombians can attest to.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, it has.
Can we even talk about those types of things, right? Yeah, I mean that situation is actually getting very, very ugly.
Incredibly.
Yeah, I mean it's. But here's the deal, right? I mean, what are they actually protesting, right? They're protesting kind of the same things that we're protesting, and that we're probably come to protest: high taxes and like the fact that they've been, locked away. Their government's been locked away because of this COVID-19 thing, and their government's been completely ineffective.
And let's face it, summertime's coming, and it's freaking hot.
Dude, that's true. This is one thing. The riots are it's a direct linear approximation or a linear correlation to like how hot it gets. The hotter it gets, the more like the rhetoric gets hotter, and then the riots start happening. The question is, what poor, young, innocent Black man will be martyred to the cause of, be it BLM or whatever, or what other tragedy is going to happen that gets us hot and bothered, that causes cities to burn and our blue line to retreat even further.
You mean beyond like Fred Hampton and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Eric Garner?
And Jeff and what is it, Robert Kennedy Jr. and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I thought last summer was more akin to that, but like, I don't know if we're near or if we're close to political assassinations quite yet. Because the powers that be are in power, and so in their more radical constituents that would go and shoot up a congressional baseball practice with GOP lawmakers around, that rhetoric has subsided because Orange Man's gone, and the party that is the most compassionate among us has uttered complete and total control of the government and all levers of power, from the culture all the way to the legislative branch. Case in point, our very own Dr. Whitson.
That sounds good, though.
I almost barfed all over myself.
Kind of time to get.
I'm trying to be more subdued tonight, right? I don't want us to get pulled right away.
Hey,
I've really gotten to the point where I don't care. In Colombia,
okay, good.
it's my understanding there was like a 20% value added tax to things like groceries, essentials. And these people, make like $650 a month if they're lucky. And now you're going to tax these people again. This is where you start to wonder what exactly the goal of this. Did they not conceive in their heads? They're like, man, the people are really going to get pissed off if we do this. Let's go ahead and do it. See what happens. Like, are they really this stupid where they think that this stuff's going to fly? I have a hard time believing that.
They definitely feel that way in America. I mean, there's no doubt that they feel that they can pull whatever strings they have, as long as they have Biden in office, as long as CNN is still spouting whatever they're wanting to spout, Mockingbird wise, and as long as YouTube censors everybody, Twitter censors trends, Facebook does its thing. It's going to happen here too. It's designed.
This has happened before. This happened. Do we not remember the yellow vests protests across France that went on for literally 3 years? And here's the deal. Those assholes are still going to implement the climate change regime that is named after their Parisian capital. It's named after the French capital, the Paris Accords. They're still going to do it. They don't care, right? So here's what they've done, though. They've bring up the pride of the republic. And hey, let's blame it on the crazy Muslims that we've basically subjugated in these cities and shitted on in these cities for the last 30 years as, whatever. Let's go after cultural stuff like that. And meanwhile, the economic vitality of your state is being completely and utterly destroyed by something I'm starting to call a cult, the cult of not wokeness, but like climate change, right? And like, it almost forces you to want to be a denier because it defies common sense, the amount of economic destruction they want to do. The only thing in Colombia they're doing is the government is just getting fucking greedy because we shut down the economy and we didn't get a whole lot of revenue because we shut down the economy because we wanted to keep people safe. Now, the very people who we use as basically the juice for the matrix, we don't have... Well, we're going to have to squeeze them just a little bit harder to get that juice out of them because we've shut down the economy. COVID didn't shut down the economy, ladies and gentlemen. Governments did, right? COVID didn't shut down business and schools. By order of
the corporation. I mean, let's not gloss over the point of who's really controlling things and really who holds all the cards. It is the global corporations. Which is funny because we've talked about this. I mean, 20 years ago, I could have a conversation with more of the Antifa types, and they were completely cognizant of the fact that these corporations were becoming too large and too powerful. I remember there used to be cartoons in the different anarchist zines that I subscribed to at that age, when I had blue hair, or any hair for that matter. And one of the major themes was, people walking around with smartphones, being told what to think and feel by the state, by the corporation, and that merger of the corporation and the state, which leads to this kind of neo-fascism that we're witnessing take over the entire world.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I take away from the left over the last 10 years, besides their being pretty right on the war, is the fact that we should have always been cognizant and most important and skeptical of large corporations and concentrations of power, particularly concentrations of power, not corporations per se, but the entities that are created that we give legal protection called corporations and their concentrations of power. We should always be skeptical of concentrations of power. The right's learning that now.
It may not have been in the copy, but what's going on with like small farmers and farmland around the world and private farmers, this is a very scary thing because it does seem as if there's an agenda there that they're not talking about at all to take over more of the food markets and start supplementing real foods with some of this GMO stuff that they have lined up.
I mean, Lou, it's conceivable. I think one of the more easily argued points about the farmland and the amount of money that's being used in farmland is that it's a great way to cheat taxes.
Well, that's a big thing here in rural America, right? Like you actually get a tax incentive for having farms. Bill Gates is kind of seeing this because you don't buy that farmland. I mean, you buy that farmland for a lot of reasons because land is actually tangible, but there's lots of tax incentives associated with that. But they don't want us. I'm having this sneaking suspicion that they don't want us to use that farmland for anything other than creating GMO laden products that we will then turn into things that are other types of proteins and meats. They're going after livestock. They're going after the ability to move that product from point A to point B. They're going after international trade. They're going after oil and gas, right? I mean, say what you will about oil and gas being a pollutant, which, okay. The simple fact of the matter is like there are lots of upstream operations that make all the things possible that you are, bitching. This device that you're bitching on is made with petroleum products, and there's nothing in existence that's going to take the place of it at the scale necessary to be taken over by plants. And here's the deal: it's petroleum as a whole is a miracle product because of what it creates. And we just have to deal with the consequences of that and mitigate for that using science, not religion. This is religion. When they go after AI models because they might use too much energy and hence contribute to climate change, it is absolutely ludicrous. It is a religion. It is like wearing the mask. It is like believing in Fauci. It is like believing in the state. The most dangerous religion is our enemy, the state, and the people who believe in it.
But why don't
that apparatus?
Why don't they believe their own eyes? I mean, if you look at the 1920s picture and a picture of in 2020 of the Statue of Liberty, the water has not moved a little bit. So whatever they're saying about all of this water rising and going down, you would have at least seen some fluctuation. I mean, it just seems like everything they tell you is just disputable by your own fucking eyes. You don't need any degrees ever.
Lou, the science, Lou.
That's where we're at. That they have the power and they have the tools. They've used the internet to tell us what we're going to think and feel, and it's been very, very successful.
Extremely
they've done that. I mean, it really is classical conditioning. They ring the bell, and everybody starts salivating.
Is that Peloton? What is it? Peloton?
Pavlov's dog.
Pavlov, that's what.
Pavlov dog. Yeah. Again, typically, think about it. The smartest people in the world fall for this. And the easiest dog to train is the smartest dog.
Yep.
Real talk.
Yeah, because they want to feel a part of something bigger. And I really do believe that it all comes from good places of what being a human's about. But they're literally selling humans out to people that have a spoken agenda for over 100 years of eugenics and transhumanism. And if there's no alternative to that, that is fucked.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is, right? As I used to work with a guy, and in the system when he did systems engineering, and we would come back to, we get to a point in a project where things have completely fallen apart. The good old man used to say, "Well, it is what it is," and we joked about it, but it was true. Sometimes you have to hunker down. Understand, know what you believe, understand ultimately who the enemy is, and come back to fight another day. I mean, I made the proclamation in October of 2020 about the fact that like MAGA era had sunset. It was over. The fix was in long before we decided that it became imperative that we vote for Orange Man. But the fix was already in, and I basically said, look, he doesn't know how to wield power. He's probably going to lose. Everything's against him. You should probably just pull your troops off the beach. And, this is a Dunkirk moment. Pull your troops off the beach. Come back for a D-Day later. And that's where that's most likely where we stand. Not to be completely a downer on this episode.
And I think that's something to remember through all this. I mean, with the things going on in Colombia, again, I find it hard to believe that any of this is accidental. Like, whoopsie, they're rioting. No. I think there's a history there that they've paid attention to with what's possible when it comes to wielding the power of the state, where when you force the people to start rioting, it gives an excuse for the government to clamp down even harder. It gives an excuse for the state to come down.
January 6th.
That's actually called that's actually called problem reaction solution. It's been used for a long time by tyrants.
Well, it's playing chess.
Right. Instead of playing chess.
A movement. It's making the enemy, in this case, in the case of the state and their corporate masters, it's making the people do things that you need them to do to justify further tyranny. That's what it is.
Yeah, we joked last night about shunning people who don't get the vaccine, but that is conditioning. That is not to use the example. This is the Gina Carano example of the Holocaust, or at the very least, leading up to Kristallnacht didn't start with just Hitler taking power and then suddenly rounding up Jews. It took a very slow conditioning process to pit neighbor against neighbor, relative against relative, children versus their parents, parents versus their children, vice versa. It took conditioning, right? And it's ostracization. You ostracize a certain segment of the population. In this instance, it's people who don't wear masks, or people who haven't been vaccinated, or people who believe in America, right? Who believe in the Constitution, who believe in that glorious piece of paper, right? People who wanted a redress of grievances on January 6th. Notice how they've all been lumped into insurrectionists. That label continues. It's in the language. Even conservatives say how horrible January 6th is. And it's just like, yeah, maybe it was we have this adage, maybe it's not a good look, but the fact of the matter is their overreaction to that is the reason why we have the Second Amendment, and it's the reason why tyrannical governments have been kind of not a big thing here. Not it's been more subtle and sinister. But the simple fact of the matter is, and this is very radical, your leaders should fear you. But that's just real talk, right? Like, just like this, I have authority in my household over my children not doing dumb shit, because your kids, while they love you and they respect you, in the early years, the benefit of the household, should fear you.
Yep. Yeah.
Because you're instilling that because you love them, unfortunately. But sometimes it gets a little excessive. But that's how you maintain order in a society, or at the very least, there's a check and balance on someone getting drunk with power. Well, this is why, I don't back up and say, all right, well, antitrust for big tech is a worthless endeavor, but the threat should be there. It's not that it's going to work. There's a long history of regulatory capture where that shit just doesn't work. But the threat should be there.
Well, with what you were saying earlier, man, I was just going to try to take it to something, just a point that you had made earlier. But I loved what that Zuby guy said. He says that, weak, low status males are loving this whole COVID thing because it allows them to just LARP around as heroes simply by just virtue signaling, and they can pretend to be strong people, and that's kind of what, it was going to dovetail on something you had said earlier. I didn't want it to get too far away, but.
No.
It's where we're at, kids. I don't know what the solution is. I mean, that's why I keep hammering on the whole, take this time, love your family, and enjoy the time you have.
For sure.
It's gotten really absurd, and we try to joke around on this show as much as we can. We try to have a good time. We try to find the humor in things, but the amount of just news speak that's out there at this time it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
I didn't really think I would ever see it.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of us, particularly those of us who served and were sold a certain bill of goods, because it takes a lot to get a young man to put his life on the line, right? At a certain point, it's not just about college. It's not just about the money. It's not just about that. It's like believing in something bigger than yourself. And this has been why young men and women increasingly, but more men, have been driven to war, right? And we're fighting for something, right? Because they hate us because of our freedoms. But then you come back home and you realize, What freedoms? From the Patriot Act to, all the other things that got created post 9/11 for our own good. That apparatus and the infrastructure that was built to basically facilitate that apparatus, we took it for granted that some leftists, great leftists now I'm finding, and libertarians told us that will ultimately, as the empire begins to fall, be turned inward. And I for one apologize for believing the hype and participating in it, but I had children at the time, and there were crazy people flying planes into buildings. So to me, it just
privileges real quick.
Yeah, no, man, and it's everything. It's everything, and I think it's hard to joke.
Wow. Well,
what he said that at some point, I'm losing the ability. Let's hope he hit a button. I see him.
I hope I hit a button.
Right when before when Shante Colombian, his audio went. Yeah, that Colombian shit's crazy.
Dude, I think tomorrow, it's my day off. I think I really got to look into that, because that's pretty terrible.
So hard. It's so hard to find information, and literally, I've got someone feeding me TikTok videos. That is one thing I really miss about being on TikTok, and if you apply it right, you can get some pretty amazing news from all over the world.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. That's the reason I joined Twitter back in 2009, right? Is just because it was real-time news. Like, I found out about the Nigerian president at the time, which was some old guy, being flown to Saudi Arabia because he was dying, before my people in the country found out.
Right.
Yeah, I told my uncle this, oh yeah, why is your president being flown to whatever? And this is basically because he was old. He was old and he was dying. And I knew about that. I found out about remember the Arab Spring? Remember the protests in Tehran? Was it the Green Revolution or whatever the hell it was called? Back in the day when Twitter was apparently going to be used for this force for good, and fomenting revolution virtually, and wow, how far we have fallen.
Well, and as we found out and been over repeatedly, it has been used to foment revolution. The problem is that now you have assets use that to spread misinformation or even real information. But again, the goal is to increase unrest. That's what they're after. That's what they're doing. They're messing with us. They want a civil war. They want this unrest so that they can have a great reset. All this stuff lends itself to that particular agenda.
And friend of show Patrick Berge exposes the system that was used in Egypt and those places, and he says and claims that they're being used now against us. And you can't argue with the level of discord, being on these social medias. Nobody's communicating with anybody anymore. Nobody has discussions. They're choosing sides and then creating the others as complete mortal enemies, where the death of them is okay.
There's too much empirical evidence that points to, you can discount Berge all you want, but just too much empirical evidence points at the fact that even if it's not one particular product, but a method of fomenting this type of thing, one would have to argue that it's actually being instituted, implemented. Who's the Svengali? I don't know. And particularly, I don't care. I just don't like what it's doing. Right? I don't like the fact that I'm slowly morphing into the enemy of the state because I'm skeptical about certain things.
Right.
So that's what kind of makes me upset.
If we stay on principles, if we remain on principles, there's nothing that can touch us. Not even death. I'm telling you. That's how I'm feeling about all of this.
Damn, Lou. That's deep as shit, bro.
It is what it is.
Okay. So, is there any lighter news as we kind of round out the week, whatever?
I guess we can talk about gender non-binary answers.
Well, hold on. We can't.
But even there to talk about there anymore. He just
Yeah,
mentioned.
but let me ask you this though, Sean, and that if there was a community, we were going to try to form a little community from the
Here we
people
go.
that like the shows.
The commune thing. There we go.
No. Which social media platform or Discord should we offer so that we can kind of start communicating outside of just the shows and all that stuff? And
I mean, there's
conversation.
Mastodon. I mean, there's technological ways. That's the beautiful thing I found about the internet and tech. Just when we're talking about just building a community, let's start from a digital standpoint. The internet always routes around damage. And I mean, there's Odyssey, there's BitChute, there's Gab, there's Parler, and then of course there's the distributed networks of Mastodon and whatever, Minds and stuff like that. That stuff. I mean, I think that stuff will become much more. I just saw that. I think Lou looking like the Passion of the Christ.
I gotta say, as much as you look like Jesus, Lou, I sure hope I don't watch you get crucified one day.
Yeah, I don't want to see you crucified, bro. I love you. We love you to death, man. Yeah, I think ultimately the internet routes around damage, and I think this is the dark times I talked about, and it's frustrating. It's kind of infuriating that like our YouTube channel gets like whatever. What in that video? Okay, I guess it was the Andy Pussy Hands video, right? Which is I think the greatest fucking thing ever. That's a Fury classic, bro.
I know.
But I mean, I guess what the COVID misinformation and stuff like that, there is nothing that we have said in these videos that hasn't been verified in other sources over the course of the last 14 months.
Or hasn't been spoken as opinion and offered up for you to investigate yourself.
Correct. We have picked on every little thing we've said. That's the thing. Over the course of 14 months, you can't help but do that. That's the whole purpose of what we do with this show. Every night we come on here and sometimes we argue over the same topics. We have to listen to Lou talk about how we all need to join a commune and like come up with a better system or maybe like a council or something like that.
At least have the ability to raise livestock and grow food. That's all I'm saying. Is if just like 100 people.
Dude, don't worry, Lou. We'll get there. Right? I think things are going back to
in Texas where we can also have like an oil rig. That'd be dope.
Dude, it would be awesome. Like, here's the deal. Like, the fact that we don't have many nuclear reactors in our backyards and stuff like that it's a direct result of the fact that we've thrown so much fucking money at worthless fucking renewable energy sources when there's an energy source that exists. We can manipulate the atom to give us energy. Right. And we take no advantage of it.
Do y'all remember the Venus Project?
Shut up for a minute. All right. Well, usually forever, but for a minute right now. But we've got Chris Lucchini coming on next week. Do we not, Thad?
We certainly do, and we can poke his head because he's Dr. Lucchini.
He is a real...
I don't know if it's nuclear engineering or if it's something. I think it might be physics. Either way, we can.
Either way, he's a very, very smart.
He's a very smart guy.
And not so much you, Thaddeus. You're also a very smart man. But Lou and I will ask him very stupid questions.
No, we'll just let him go. And he appreciates any opportunity, not necessarily to talk Libertarian Party politics, right? Like, I think he actually really enjoyed the show we were on, even though we might have gone off the rails. But it was there were legitimate questions to be asked during that. That we.
Hey, if you don't go off the rails, then you're not really.
We're not the ACTJ.
Yeah, that wouldn't be what we are.
Anyway.
So we do have him coming on next week. This is a little plugs and Casey Peterson. We'll check in with him and his fight against critical race theory.
Hey,
where you at, Lou?
John, I was going to say, I had this idea that since next week we're going to be off air on your channel or the ACT channel, you could actually jump onto Luis Velez and join that channel, and you'll be able to catch the stream on YouTube if you really, really want to.
Let's really try to start pushing people over to BitChute because they're going to ban you as soon as they can, Lou. And that's really what it's about. We're going to be running around from platform to platform, but we promise we will keep doing this because we know some of you appreciate it. And to tell you the truth, we enjoy it just as much when the people hate us. Good night, everybody. We'll fucking do it again. Yeah, we'll fucking do it again. You got that right.